Hey everybody, welcome to Bestie Book Reviews. I'm here with my bestie Mandy.
And I'm here with Mr. Goose and my bestie Jessica.
You know, I kind of feel like you like Mr. Goose a little more than me with the way that intro went.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Okay.
The people like Mr. Goose, but
I'll remember that when we're
he's
alone,
tired,
sleeping in a hotel room together. Okay. Anyhow, guys, this is our 1 minute book recs for the week. This is where we go over all the books we read in the past week with a 1 minute synopsis for each book. But Mandy, what do we got to tell them before we get started?
Well, hit that subscribe button before you take your nap like Mr. Goose is going to go do.
Exactly.
And we'd love to know how your reading week was. So let us know how your reading week was in the comments below, and like our video and tell your friends to subscribe.
Yeah.
We have goals for this channel.
We
and
do.
Also, StreamYard is really expensive. The truth.
It is true. So that's okay. How was your reading week?
My reading week was busy. I read 10 books. I had some books that were not so great, and I had some books that were really good, and I found my favorite book of the year.
Already?
Yep.
Okay.
I'm calling it.
Okay. So I also had 10 reads this week, and mine were the same. Some were really crummy, some were great. So let's talk about them.
Let's.
Okay,
so you can go first. Thank goodness.
Yeah, we're going to stay on, though, for my first one together. Sorry. You just did your notes. You should be good.
Why do we have to stay on?
Because it's for convincing, and I don't really need to talk about it.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So the first book that I have is Maestro by Audendar. This is a part of our Convincing My Bestie series. The video came out on this last Thursday, so it is out now. And it was Friends to Lovers. And so to see the other amazing recommendations that Mandy had and to see how that all played out, go watch that video.
Yeah.
Okay,
my turn.
Your turn. What's your first book this week?
Okay. My first book is Kissing My Coworker by Jay Sterling. This is part of the Fun for the Holidays series. There's a novella for each month that goes along with either the season or the holiday. So this one was for New Year's. So I forgot that I wanted to listen to it on New Year's. So I was a few days behind, but I'm going to stay caught up with it. So this is about Declan and Lily. They work together, but their office has like a no fraternization policy. So they, for a couple of years, have kind of crushed on each other and never acted on it. And then on New Year's, they decide that they're going to go for it. So it is a quick, fun little novella. Yeah, 4 stars.
Okay. All right. Well, my next read was a little bit of a letdown.
Oh, no.
You know, I think I told you about this one. It felt like it was written by a 16-year-old boy in the height of puberty.
You did. I did hear about this one.
Yes. Okay, so this book that I'm talking about is Made for the Alphas by Layla Sparks. So this is about our heroine, who is Brenna, and she was a part of, so it's an Omegaverse Y2s. She fled the compound that her family's in charge of because of just the way they treated her. She is undesignated, but she's gonna, so like a beta. So she's gonna go and she flees with her aunt, who's an Omega. So if they're found, they could get in a lot of trouble because she took an Omega with her. And so they're in this town, it's in the human world, and she gets hired to be a maid for these alphas. And she's really surprised. These are werewolf shifters. She's really surprised that these guys live outside of the compound, and then she goes to be their maid. She's very young. She's a virgin, but she is the horniest damn virgin I have ever heard of. Like, she's climbing on the washing machine on her first day working for these guys to get it to shake, rattle, and roll for her so that she can have fun. And it just was unbelievable. It was ridiculous. It felt like a Wattpad story. I gave it 2 stars, and I felt like that was being generous.
Nice.
It was horrible.
Oh.
So yeah. It was ridiculous. Okay, next.
Okay, my next read is Wild Winter by Kay Webster. You can only get this from her website. And at the time when I got it just a few weeks ago, it was part of like you had to buy a couple books and you would get this novella. But this is the bridge basically from where we've left off, getting us ready for Rowdy's story. So at the end of it, it says Rowdy's story will continue, but she does not give us a timeline for that. So I'm really hoping that it's coming soon, because when we got Daddy Read, the Untamed and Unruly came pretty quickly after that. So I am very hopeful that we are going to be getting back into the wild world. I did enjoy this one quite a bit. So yeah, I rated it 4 stars.
Okay, is
I mean,
that one?
it's a novella. It's just a teaser kind of to get you ready
Mhm.
for get back in the world. So hopefully that's coming soon.
So my next book that I was really let down by that Omegaverse. Okay, let's just all be honest. I was very much let down by that Omegaverse. So I had to read a different Omegaverse. But I wanted to read Omegaverse dystopian, and it was one that I've already read, but I hadn't listened to the audio, so I picked up the audio for this, and that is The Alpha Awakens by Anna Fury. So this starts off a post-apocalyptic Omegaverse, totally cool. And this is about Mallory and Orion. So there's a virus that has kind of wreaked havoc on the US, and it only affects men, and they kind of just go crazy. Like they bulk out, they get huge, and they lose their minds, and everybody thinks that they can't talk. They think that they've got completely lost their minds when this happens. And so that is what has happened to Mallory's brother. And then the government kind of comes in and takes the guys when that happens. Well, it's been a few years later. She's living in New York, and with a friend, is her neighbor. And one night when she's walking home from the grocery store, she has an alpha who comes up behind her and is like smelling her. You can smell something on her, and she gets all upset about this because they're not supposed to be out there. And another alpha comes and protects her, and that is Orion. Eventually, Orion comes back because he can't stay away from her. There's something about her, and finds out that she is a reporter. So he offers for her to come out to the compound where he and the other alphas live for. I muted myself instead of switching myself for a month or two, to write a story about them so that the world can find out that they're not these crazy guys. They're still the same guys. They're just a little different. Did we lose?
I'm here.
Did we lose Goose, or is he eating things?
He was chewing on something he's not supposed
Cool,
to.
Chewy thing. So anyhow, when I read this before, it was a 5-star read. When I physically read it, I think with the audio, I would give it like 4.5. But it's the second time going through it, so I still think it's just as great. But it is a series, and you have to read all of these in the order. This is the first in a series, and I wanted to get into the second series. That's the spinoff, because Tor Tom narrates those. But I needed a refresher, so that's why I didn't jump into this. So, okay, what do you got next?
Next up, I have Irresistibly Risky by Jay Saman.
Do you want to do that again?
I don't know why I struggle so much with that. It should be Saman. The A should say its name.
But with names, that's not always correct. And it could be, because remember she said it to us, and I was like, what? And it was hard. And it could, and I know that there's no H sound. It could be Saman. It could be Sayman. It could be Saman. I don't know. I can't remember how she said it. And she was like, any way you say it's fine. I'm like,
I think we're going to see her again in Phoenix. So
we'll quiz her on that again.
Let's record her saying her name, and then I'll just play that every time.
Let's get a voice memo. Okay.
So, Irresistibly Risky by Julie. So we have Asher, and he is a pro football player, and their team just won the Super Bowl. And I believe he's the quarterback, so he's had to take some like muscle relaxants because of his arm and things like that. And he's also been drinking quite heavily because they're out celebrating. When he meets, according to him, like the prettiest woman he's ever seen in the bathroom. And they end up hooking up, except for because of all the drinking and the muscle relaxants and things are not working like they should. And he kind of freaks out, and it's just kind of a little bit of a disaster, and he feels really bad. So he runs to go find his friend who is a doctor to try and get some Viagra so he can go back and make things better. And it's hilarious. Okay, so when he gets back to the bathroom, by the way, she's gone. So we fast forward 2 years later, and Winter is forced into being the team doctor for this football team. And she did not know who he was. He doesn't know, like, it's a one night stand type thing on accident. And turns out we have a secret baby situation going on because she had no way of getting a hold of him. She didn't know who he was. And now she is the team doctor, which is going to just throw like a whole bunch of problems in the
Yeah.
mix.
Yeah. Is that one a standalone?
Yes, it's part of the Irresistibly, what is it called? Irresistibly Yours series, but they can each be read as standalones. So
Okay.
I really enjoy her books a lot.
I need to read something by her, and you know I'm a sucker for a secret baby, and at this point in the week I'm good for a palate cleanser. So yeah.
Okay, I will say I do not like Secret Baby when there is not a good reason. Like I don't like that. But they literally didn't know who each other were, and as soon as she figures out who he is, she doesn't keep it a secret. I hate that when that happens.
I don't care. I mean, I would in real life, but I don't care as much as you do when it's in books. So what did you rate that book?
Solid 4.
Okay. All right. I
I'm
want to
getting
go read that one.
stingier on my 5s for some reason.
I feel the same way.
I'm not sure what's gone awry.
I don't know.
But yeah.
I don't know. Okay, so the next book that I read again was a reread, but I was really hankering for this because we had talked about The Last Riders in our top of all time videos, and and even on our top 20, and I just kind of felt, or 24. I needed to do a reread, but I kind of jumped in the middle, and I'm just going to tell you guys that like if you read this, you probably should read the couple of books before. You don't have to start at the very, very beginning. But you need to start like at book 2 or 3 or 4 because otherwise you're not going to understand a lot of what's happening in here. There's things that happened before. But this is Lucky's Choice. This is one of my favorite ones by Jamie Bagley. It's one of my favorite ones in the Last Rider series. It's an MC series. For those who don't know, I feel like a lot of people do know. It's kinky as all get out. But this is about Lucky and Willa. So Willa is the baker in town, and she's a softie. She, has a very kind, soft heart. These all take place in Kentucky, so she's very sweet. She is also curvy. She's a curvy girl, and she struggles with her weight. And when they were talking about weight and size and her pant size going from like a 20 to a 18, I was like, I remember that. I know what that's like. Like, it was very relatable. Lucky was the pastor in town for many, many years. He's been a part of the military. He is no longer the pastor, and he's back in the MC because he was in the MC. And there's a situation with some kids in town where Willa has taken them in to be a foster parent to them. And they get into a situation where the kids are going to get taken from her. But Lucky steps up and says, I'm going to help with these kids. We're engaged. We're getting married. She's always had a crush on Lucky. And I'm going back into the ministry. And so there's a lot of things that kind of evolve from there. It's pretty angsty because she likes him, but doesn't understand why he would like her. And there's a lot of things. He also likes knives. He likes to play with knives. There's some knife play in there. So I still love it. I mean, well, hi, Noelle. It's like a menagerie at your house. Noelle. No, we're just going to see her butt. Got it. Okay. Anyhow, I do highly recommend The Last Riders. They can be a little kinky and a little fun, but I really like them a lot. This had a lot of like biblical references and then porn. It's very interesting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh gosh.
Okay, next.
Okay, next I read Alcoholia Later by Heather M. Orgeron. And I'm sure we all know why I picked up this book.
We 100% know why you picked that book. I was with you.
Noelle approves. So this is about Nick and Raven. Nick is a rock star. Raven has had a crush on him. She ends up meeting him through like some friends, and they become very good friends. Like, he calls her his best friend, but really they're just friends with benefits. And he Oh, I struggled a little bit. I liked the book, but I struggled a little bit with how desperate she was for him. Like, she's in love with him. He has no idea. He's a massive playboy. He's out partying, living the rock star lifestyle. And she's just sitting there pining away for him, waiting for the phone call to come visit him. And she will. And then they do it. And then she goes home. And it's kind of like that's their friendship. And then she gets a call from him to come. And so she goes and she's hopeful that one of these days he's going to realize that he's in love with her. And that does not happen. He tells her that he's actually now the father of twin toddlers and wants her help in caring for them because their mom has passed away and he has to keep them. I think it's for like 6 weeks. And oh, Noelle paused my timer. My timer stopped.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
And so she decides to help care for the kids. He has no desire to even connect with them. So I rated it a 4. I
Mhm.
I really liked it. I just had a little bit of a hard time with how desperate she was for him, but I think that has a lot to do with my age because I think if I was in my early 20s, I would probably be able to relate to that more.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
I can understand why she is the way she is. I'm just kind of past that type of a heroine, I guess.
And I kind of felt the same way. It was a solid. It was a 4 for me. It was a 4. I
Mhm.
enjoyed it, but the feelings were there. I still think it's worth reading. It's a great book. It's just she is a
I
little
just wish
desperate.
she would have maybe stood up for herself a little bit more.
Mhm.
I don't know what to do about this, like why this is a thing. Do you know
Well,
how
what
many times we've recorded and Noelle has never jumped up on my desk, but
I
lately this
know.
has been her thing.
I'm tempted to go get Penelope so Penelope can meet Noelle. It's okay. I don't need Penelope in my face. Okay, so
I
ready
don't
for
know
my
if
next
she's
book?
upset that Mr. Goose has been getting some fame on here or what.
Probably. Hi, Noelle's tale. Okay, so the next book that I have on my list is Kept by the Mountain Man. Whoops, Kept by the Mountain Man by Gemma Weir. Now I can't turn myself over because my hand's holding my book down. Hold on. Okay. I had to keep my journal open while holding the book. So Kept by the Mountain Man by Gemma Weir. This is the 3rd book in her Montana Mountain Men series. I've read the first 2, I have the 3rd one, so I jumped into the 3rd. This is about Alice and Granger, and I think Granger's the oldest of the brothers. But this one's very insta love, but it is Alice is a nomad. She travels around in her RV and she takes seasonal jobs. And so she's in Montana. She's going to go to where like the ski resort is or something. And her RV breaks down. And good old Granger here is the first one to come upon her. And when he sees her, he knows immediately that is his woman because the brothers have all teased him about, when you know, you know. So he finagles it to where she stays with him and his brothers and sister-in-laws at the cabin at their family home. And over the course of a weekend, they pretty much decide that they're it for each other. They're going to get married. He manipulates until he gets what he wants, and what he wants is her. She's very insecure. This one I did give 4 stars. I'm going to say it's more of a soft. So anyhow, he
4 stars.
it's a soft 4 stars. I felt like
Oh.
the heroine was very desperate. Like she was very not desperate. She was very she didn't have a lot of self-confidence. She had a lot of issues and she was a little bit weaker. And this one, the other ones we could see where the relationship was coming from, even though the guys were obsessive and possessive and all the breeding and all that good stuff happens in those. But they'd had relationships with these girls. Like they knew of them. They weren't somebody they met on the street and they decided to bring home and just make there. So it wasn't, I loved the other 2. This one was, it was still good. It's still worth a read. I want to read the other ones in the series still. So yeah. Okay. Next.
Next, I read a book I have had on my bookshelf since we went to Love in Seattle.
Been
My
almost 2
goal,
years.
I know we didn't really talk a lot about 2025 goals, but one of my goals is to really stay focused on reading books on my bookshelf and
Mm-hmm.
not just buying more books for my bookshelf. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm still going to do that.
Oh yeah.
But
Yeah.
I also want to be focused on actually reading some of them. So you'll notice that I had a whole stack of books this time.
Yeah.
And we'll see if that happens again next week.
Okay.
So
All right.
I read Frayed by Laura Pavlov. I wanted to read this for a long time, so I pulled this off. And in case you didn't know, we did just interview her, which was super fun. I really enjoyed chatting with her, and I'm excited about a lot of the stuff that she has coming in 2025. So check that interview out if you haven't yet. So this is starts off, what was the name of the series? Willow Springs. And this is Adelaide. And Adelaide is like this is YA, by the way, a like coming of age story. So Adelaide is your typical like good girl who does everything her parents say, to the point that her mom has basically planned her life out for her. She wants her to date her best friend's son. And even though the best friend's son is not that great of a guy, like she makes excuses for him and like continues to encourage this life that she has planned out for her, like where she's going to go to college and all of that. Well, Adelaide and Jet have known each other for a long time, and they start to become a lot closer their last year of high school. And Jet is like the star football player. And he's also, the bad boy from the wrong side of the tracks type thing. And so the two of them, start to get closer. And that does not go well with Adelaide's mom, who is not happy that her plan for her daughter is not going the way she wants it to. So this is just your very typical like bad boy, good girl, wrong side of the tracks type story. So if you enjoy that, you will really like this one. I am a sucker for a YA football romance, so I did really like this. I rated it 4 stars. I also really like the cover.
Okay.
I love pink.
I know you do. I do not.
I know, which was so funny when we made our pastel bookmarks, and I'm like, I don't really know that I care for the pastel. And you're like, I hate them. And I'm like, then why did you make them? And you're like, I don't know.
I want to give you what you want, and I gave the pink. I know you love pink.
Well, it was very sweet of you.
Well, thank you. Okay. So the next book that I read, I actually listened to it, and I saw that Teddy Hamilton had done this audio, and so I'm like, okay, I gotta listen to it. So this is Saving Scarlet by C. Avarian. This is like the second time I've tried to see Avarian, second or third time I've tried one of her books. I don't think she's for me. This is about Scarlet. So Saving Scarlet is about Scarlet. She is in an abusive relationship. Her husband is, he hits on her, and he goes out and he hires a hitman to take her out. He's got a mistress. The mistress is pregnant, but if they get a divorce, he loses the money. So he hires a hitman. The hitman, so Scarlett actually owns a coffee shop, and that morning she runs into a tall, dark, and handsome in the coffee shop, and it's a coffee book shop. And then, she offers him a free cup of coffee. Next thing she knows, he's gone. Later that night, our hitman goes to the house to do his job, and he goes into the bedroom to pull back the covers and look at her, and he realizes it's the woman from this morning and that he met in the coffee shop, and she's beat all to hell. So he decides, instead of killing her, he's going to take her to his remote cabin and keep her and help her get out of this situation. It was rushed. It wasn't fleshed out enough. What they tell us on the back of the book doesn't match what's actually happening in the book. It needed a little bit more fleshing out. I gave it 3.5 stars because Shiloh James and Teddy Hamilton did the audio. And I felt like if I'd read it, it probably would have been less. But because Teddy and Shiloh did such an amazing job with the audio, I think it elevated it a little bit. So, it wasn't fleshed out.
You've read that book before, like that plot.
I think I have a couple of times. Yeah. I don't mind that plot at all if it's done correctly. I just felt like this was rushed. But we will say, Teddy, and I mentioned Tor earlier, we did a interview with Teddy Hamilton and Tor Tom together. It was chaos. And it will be out on Wednesday. So definitely check back for that. We had a lot of fun with Teddy and Tor. So, they had a lot of fun. We were there just there looking at them while they talked. So no, I'm kidding. It was a great time.
I don't know what to do with you.
I know, but it was fun.
All right.
Okay. Next.
Well, let's talk about a disappointing read now.
Oh, I had one. Okay, good. Good. Next.
Even more disappointing than that.
Ooh, all right.
Okay, so I read X by AJ Knox.
Oh, yeah. That one.
Yeah, and this says it is a dark romance. It should not be marketed as dark romance. I don't mind when there's a non-traditional HEA, but you, oh, I maybe it's okay to still market it as dark romance. I don't know. I normally don't mind a non-traditional HEA, but in this one it didn't work for me. So we have Katie and Corbin. Katie is living her like housewife life. She's engaged and planning a wedding to her fiance when Corbin, who was her boyfriend 10 years ago, shows up because he just got out of prison. They were the last time she saw him was when they both were handcuffed and thrown on the pavement and he was taken to jail. There's no real explanation about why she never went to see him, why there was no communication in those 10 years, but whatever. So he's back and he decides he wants her. So I was like really into this. I'm like, this is going to be fantastic. But it's not. It just really fell flat for me. He is borderline like it's not, I don't feel like it was BDSM. I feel like he was abusive. And that could just be my thing. But there's even a point where they're out together and he like tries to slap her. And some guys join in and are like, you need to get it, like, knock it off. This is not how you treat a woman. I'm gonna like come with us. We'll make sure you're okay. And she just stays with him. He keeps her in a dog crate. Like, I just didn't like it at all. There was nothing alpha about the way it
Yeah.
was written. Maybe if it was written differently, I could have gotten on board with it, but I just didn't like it. It's pages and pages of smut. There, I missed like the plot, and then it doesn't end with really. I guess I should say I don't mind a non-traditional HEA, but this doesn't have any sort of HEA. It just
Yeah.
kind of abruptly ends, and so
I
I
feel
don't.
like if it's a romance, it has to have an HEA of some kind, whether it's
Yeah.
non-traditional or a traditional one. There needs to still be a happy conclusion of some kind.
So I don't know if there's plans for another book, but this one was such a mess that I don't want to read another book.
Oh, I don't blame you.
So I'm not going to. But if you're
Mhm.
going to have a second book that continues the story, you need to make that extremely clear at the end of the book.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like,
I had that one on
people
KU.
shouldn't have to go and look and see if there's more books about this couple. But my understanding was this is the author's first book. And I think that they need some beta readers and some help fleshing some stuff out.
Yeah. I had this one on KU and I just immediately returned it when you were telling me about it. So,
but you know what? Maybe somebody's watching and they're like, no, I had a totally different experience with a book. That does happen, but this is just my opinion and how I felt about it. So I rated it 2 stars. And if you watch your channel, you know that does not happen very often from me.
Mm-mm. Nope. Okay. So after a couple of disappointments, I had to grab something that I liked. So Ruby Dixon had an audio that came out for one of her Risdiverse, and this is When She's Handy. It came out a couple weeks ago, so I jumped on this one. So this is one of her Risdiverse tales. I think this is like 12.5 in the Risdiverse series. This is about Melody and Brooks. Melody, so this is a second chance romance because 5 years prior to the book starting, Melody was a slave to a junker, a guy, an alien who does, junk metal and that kind of stuff, and taught her how to scavenge and do that kind of stuff. But he was very mean, very cruel to her. And so one day, this other alien, who is Brooks, sees her being abused by this guy and asks him how much to buy her off of him. And goes and gets the money and buys her freedom. They spend a night together. That night, she's so grateful and she's so happy to be free and she's attracted to him. So she jumps in bed with him. So they have a one night stand. And then the next morning, he's gone. She doesn't see him. And then we fast forward 5 years later. He's working on Risdiverse. He travels to other planets and does like jobs where he's needed, and they run into each other. And for both of them, it's the one who got away, although Brooks thinks she deserves a little better. So this is their story. I gave it 4 stars. It was very enjoyable. I listened to it and it was just a nice little happy palate cleanser. Quick listen.
Okay.
What? Next.
Okay.
You're just sitting there staring at me.
What? Oh, sorry. I was thinking. Okay. So my next one, also one that I ended up not quite caring for, and I'll explain why. So this is Rock by S.K. Allison, and I got the ALC. It's already out, so this is like promo or just review only. So it's already been out, but I did get it as an ALC. So it's James McAdams and Kinsley Rose narrated. This is about Harper and Rex. Rex is a rock star and he has custody of his little girl. I think she's about 5. And he is needing a new nanny. So he ends up hiring Harper, but he doesn't really like Harper. And he's just kind of grumpy. So I am on board. The writing is really well done. I'm totally on board. He is a micromanager, like extreme controlling of his daughter, like to the point where he has like this book that's written that tells the nanny what she's supposed to do. And it's like, have her tucked into bed and then come get me after you've read to her, like that sort of thing. He doesn't really spend a lot of time with his daughter, but he's just extremely controlling and he doesn't like Harper. And some reason Harper finds all of that package extremely attractive. So I was waiting for those layers to kind of be peeled back of Rex, and then for him to have this like kind of change, and the 3 of them start to become a family. Like that's what you kind of look for in those types of books. But none of that happens. So it's almost like the book was really well written and it needed like a second part to where we see the character growth and all of that stuff starts to change, and we can see why Harper is falling for him. We see him start to connect more with his daughter and with Harper, and it just didn't happen. It's like they had sex a couple of times and they were in it. So it fell really short for me in that way. So it's weird to say a book was well written, but I'm rating it a 3 because it was missing
Yeah.
that other piece of it,
Yeah.
which I get is weird, but this is just, it's my review. It's how I feel.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I did not care for the female narrator. The male narrator was just fine. The female narrator, oh, I listen at a higher rate. And that probably impacts it a little bit, although I did listen to it at regular rate and I'm like, oh my God, I can't do this.
Uh-huh.
This is way too slow.
Yeah.
I can't do that. Like I can't. So
Mm.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I've never had an issue usually with narration turned up full speed. It does not bother me, but for whatever reason, this narrator just didn't work for me.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I'm so sorry. I feel bad when I have like reviews like that, but I'm being honest.
Exactly. It didn't work for you. Doesn't mean it'll work for
And I will
somebody else.
not take the author or the narrator. Also, I did some investigating, and this author writes under a different name. And I loved the book that I read by her under a different name.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
I found that very shocking.
I'm not surprised. There's been a few authors that I know that have dual pen names, and I like what they write under one pen name versus the other. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's weird when that happens, but it happens.
Yeah.
So
Anyway, okay,
all right.
let's go on.
So the next book that I read, I'm just gonna put this caveat out there that I'm just telling you right now, I gave it 3 stars. I feel like if you are not a major dark romance reader, you would probably give it higher stars, and I'm gonna explain why. But this is Fireball by Nikki Belair. This is about our heroine, Addie. Addie is homeless, and it's just her and her dog Pete. And she's got a boxer. And she's staying with her creepy not foster brother, stepbrother. Their parents are gone, but she's staying with him. He's into a lot of bad stuff, but she's getting ready to leave. Like, she has no place to go, but she's trying to figure out where she's going to go because she has to get away from the creepy guy. When this big SUV pulls into the driveway and these guys storm the house and take her, these big mafia guys. And that is where we meet Titan. So Titan is the head of this mafia, and apparently her brother owed them money or did something, and her crossed them. And so they take Addie in order to get information about where the brother put the money. The only thing is Titan is immediately just love struck by Addie. And so, yes, he takes her to his basement to torture her, but they tie her up, not with rope, because that would hurt. They use soft belts. And they pretend that they're going to torture her. to get information. Oops, sorry. Oh, no. To get information out. But he doesn't want to hurt her. Then he decides he's going to keep her. And she's going to live there. So he goes soft for her immediately. And I know for some people that works. But for me, I'm like, look, you took her to torture her. Torture her. Do it. And then she had like a small breaking point, but it wasn't like it lasted for all a half a minute. So for me, I felt like something that should be darker, but he was totally swooning for her immediately. So if dark is not your thing and like you don't read tons and tons of dark, you'd probably rate it higher than I did. I just felt like it should have been darker. So I gave it 3. I did enjoy it. I was like, when's he gonna get mean? I want him mean. So, that's a me thing. Okay, next.
All right, my next one is Reckless Love by Willow Astor. This is the 3rd book in the Single Dad's Playbook, and it comes out on January 16th. So I listened to the audio and the book come out on the same day. I listened to the audio by Sean Krisden and Angelina Rocco, and I loved it. So Rhodes and Allie met in college, and they did a pact with each other that they would just remain friends and never take their relationship to something different. So now we're 13 years later. Rhodes is a single dad, and Ellie is, or I think I called her Ellie. It's Ellie. Ellie is Rhodes is a professional football player, and Ellie just got a job on the cheer team. So she's a cheerleader, and there's a strict like no fraternization policy, like they can't even be seen together, but they have been best friends for all this time. She is his son's godmother. So it creates some tension and some problems for the two of them. She has been like kind of living under her parents' thumb a little bit, trying to please them. She just got out of a relationship with a guy that wasn't great for her, like who was a little controlling over what she wore and things like that. And so her and Rhodes are like gonna find their way to each other, I guess you could say. Like, I really, really enjoy this. She also has a secret that she hasn't told anybody because of how she was brought up. She doesn't want people to know about this. And I really, really enjoyed this. And there's a funny part where he gets in the car with her and she was listening to a romance audiobook. And it is at a part that, everybody's worst nightmare that listens to audiobooks, where it's like, I took my cock. And I have to hand it to the narrator. He does such a great job at Rhodes, but when that audiobook comes on, he does this like almost perfect Tor Tom, excuse me, impression with that really deep voice with the and everything. It was so great. I loved it so much. So
That's awesome.
I rated it 4 stars, but I'm really leaning to like adjusting it to 5 stars because I really, really enjoyed it. So I made up my mind. I'm adjusting it. It is now my 5-star read.
Oh, okay.
I just, do you know when you read a book and you're just like, wait, it was so good. I'm still like thinking about it. I really, really enjoyed it. The Dad's Playbook has been really great. I've only read 2 of the books. I haven't read the first one, but I've really enjoyed it.
Okay.
I love that found family too in there, like friendships and stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So then the next book I read is No Control by Annie Wilde. So I read Killing Emma earlier here in January. Maybe it was in December. I don't remember. And we read The Wrong Drive at Christmas time. And this is set in the same world. All those are by Annie Wilde, even though they're not in order. I think this one came first and then the other ones came later. And you can kind of tell. I enjoyed this one quite a bit. Just I enjoyed the ones that came after it that much more. So this is about Lydia and Henry. So Lydia is a ghostwriter and Henry is one of our, hired hitmen. And for whatever reason, because of her books and her ghostwriting, he knows who she is. He is like fallen in love with her without her knowing. And he has been stalking her for quite a long time. And so he actually creates a profile to try to hire her to be a ghostwriter for a book and have her fly out to California where he lives and write from his home. Well, Lydia has a boyfriend that she's had for 7 years, and the boyfriend's not very keen about it. But then the boyfriend also made a joke about, well, he could pay off his student loans if she slept with the guy too and got a little bit more money out of him, which causes them to break up. But then he kind of goes a little crazy. And we know how these boys treat the crazy guys. They get rid of them, which then makes her have to go to California. So this is their story. I felt it was a little rushed in certain spots. I gave it 4. It was a soft 4. It's not really a 3.5. It's more of a 4. It's just I knew, because this was the one that came before all the others, I knew the other ones were a little bit better, and so that's, you know, kind of probably drove that a little bit. But I very much enjoyed it. There's audio for this one. I listened to it. Okay.
So next, I read my favorite book of the year.
Uh-huh.
We'll see how it fares throughout the whole year, but oh my goodness. So I got this for Christmas. Megan sent this to me. It's A Place Without You by Jewel E. Ann. Oh, I love this. So Hannah and Bodhi and Hannah. This book is perfection. So we have our 2 characters. They meet each other at Coachella. They have this epic connection. And even though Hannah is young, she is that mature heroine where you can be like, I understand why this guy likes her. Sometimes in age gaps, they fall short for me because I'm like, the girl was obnoxious. She was annoying. Why do you like this girl? But no, Hannah is not like that at all. She and Bodhi just have this instant connection, and they have this fantastic time at Coachella together where they're just very, very connected and on the same level. Loved it. Then something happens and they don't see each other again. And she goes back home, and they live in very different worlds. And she goes back home to like this huge mansion on the hill, and she has to go back to school. And even though she's older, and that is explained why she has one more year of school when everybody else is, like, all of her friends are gone. They've left for college and things like that. And the guidance counselor is Bodhi. And so we have our couple has had this epic connection when they didn't know who each other were. And now they're thrust into this situation where it is extremely taboo and forbidden for them to be together. And oh, I just love this story so much. It was so good. It is phenomenal. It is utter perfection. I loved it.
Obviously.
Loved it so much.
Trying to make out with the cover. Look at you.
What?
So you're trying to make out with the cover as we speak.
No, I'm just holding it so it's on the screen.
Hold him
with
close.
Me. I mean, he's not bad to look at. And don't
it's
just
not,
shut your mouth.
I can't even see him that well. So
good. You just
he's blonde,
shut your
isn't
mouth.
he?
So my number 1 read of 2025, A Place Without You by Jewel E. Ann.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll see if that changes. Got it. Okay. Mm-hmm. Got it. Okay.
Thank you, Megan.
Okay. All right. My last book of the week was crazy and fun, and that is Breaking the Girl by Eva Marx. So this is a best friend's dad dark romance. This is about Leighton and Marcus. So Marcus is a psychologist, and he uses hypnotherapy. And Leighton is best friends with his daughter, and they've been best friends since they were young. And somewhere around the age of 17, Marcus realized that he had an attraction to Leighton, but he obviously did not touch her. He stayed away because he knew that it was not normal. He was actually going to a psychiatrist. He's a psychiatrist as well. He has a psychiatrist that he sees, and he talks to her all about it, and he knows not to act on it. At the age of 18, they go off to college, and now they're back, the daughter and her, 4 years later. And now he realizes that it is time to act on this. But here's the deal. The daughter has a dark side to her. Like, dad has dated 2 other women. Mom died when she was born. Dad has dated 2 other women in her lifetime, and both of them supposedly ghosted him and just up and left. And so he knows something's not right with the daughter. So then he ends up kidnapping Leighton because he built a house for her over those 4 years to protect her from his daughter. And he's going to have to figure out how to make all of this work. He does hypnotize her from time to time too, because then she says doll. It's all good. It's kinky as all get out. Quite a bit of braiding in this one too. I'm kind of waffling. I don't know if it's 4 or if it's 5. I cannot make up my mind. I finished it late last night. I was up till like midnight reading it. I don't know. So we're just gonna go with it's good, and I don't know. I don't know what to give it quite yet. There was quite a bit of sex in it, which I could have done without, Probably more of a 4. So, I don't know. But the whole premise was great. Next.
You're funny. Okay, my next one is also an ALC, and it's Sometimes You Fall by Harlow James. And it is narrated by Sebastian York and Samantha Brentmore. And let me just tell you, Samantha Brentmore can do the male voice. Oh my gosh, she is so good. So this releases June 17th. This is about Grady. Grady was a baseball player and his career ended. Suddenly he's back home and working at a garage when he is out one night and he runs into Scotty, who was the love of his life, but they were only friends, like the one that got away. That's what I want to say. And she is there just in town real briefly. They hook up. And then she leaves and he tries to track her down and she's just gone. And then we fast forward a couple weeks later, and Scotty has made the decision to move her and her 14-year-old son back home. She's got a good job, like a support system, when she finds out that that one night stand led to a baby. And Grady is all in, but she is really concerned about doing this again and wants to protect her heart. And I really, really enjoyed it. It was great. And the narration was fantastic. It was a very sweet romance. Also, while she's pregnant, she says she really wants orange popsicles. So he goes and buys her some popsicles and he comes back and she starts crying. And she's like, I wanted the ones with 2 sticks.
Hey, that is
So
valid.
he's like, fine. And he grabs his keys and he goes to get her the popsicles with 2 sticks. And I just love that so much because it was so relatable. Like,
yeah, because we can be very irrational when we were pregnant.
yes.
And that was okay.
Yes. And I loved how he was like a cinnamon roll kind of for her, but very alpha.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like cinnamon roll heroes or the golden retrievers that don't have like that alpha, feeling.
Yeah.
Also, I wanted to tell you, In a Place Without You, Hannah is talking about Bodhi's dad, and she says he's an older gentleman, 50-ish. So I think that when we refer to Jeff from now on, we need to refer to him as an older gentleman.
But that applies to Jay as well.
Jay is younger than Jeff.
Yeah, but not by much.
Okay, but isn't that funny? An older gentleman. He was
my
50-ish.
old boss, when Jeff and I first met, used to refer to Jeff as dashing. She's like, he's that dashing one. I'm like, got a thing for my husband. When she was in her like 60s. I mean, I liked it. I liked that she called him that because it made him feel like Prince Charming. But still, at the same time, I was like, what's your thing with my husband?
So, anyways,
okay.
An older gentleman.
An older gentleman.
It made me laugh.
All right, guys. So that was our reading week.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I will not be reading 10 books from now on. I'll be back down to like 4 or 5 a week.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Do your thing.
Tune in when I give my top 25 of 25 because I'm done. I've got it. Place Without You. I'm done.
Okay.
No stress for me this year.
All right. I'll remind you of that in December.
Yeah.
Okay.
I hate when you make me do that.
Sorry.
Okay. So make sure you check back on Mondays, Thursdays, and Saturdays for new videos from us. Also hit that notification button and make sure you also check back on Wednesdays because we have new videos coming on Wednesdays that you are not going to want to miss.
Nope. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next video.